So what do you think about doing these types of conventions and getting to meet with fans and maybe people that you're fans of?
I hate them.
Do you?
No, I'm kidding. I think they're okay. They're okay. No, I enjoy coming here. I enjoy doing the panels. Sometimes the panels have just 5 or 6 people sitting in them, and sometimes they're packed. So you never know what you're going to get, but it's always fun. It's always fun to meet people who enjoy the work that I've been doing and appreciate it. You know, where I come from, amongst the professionals I work with, we are all either so competitive with one another or blasé about it that you forget that what you do can actually be a wonderful thing until you meet people who actually appreciate it and remind you of that. So
Have you had any?
that's why I like coming to these. They're a lot of fun.
Have you had any crazy fan experiences at a convention? Has anyone caught you off guard?
Yes. You can see it on video. Ruben Langdon caught me off guard at a convention. At AFO, actually. It's called the Pool Noodle or something. The AFO Tentacle Play. Look it up. It's on YouTube. It's not very pleasant for me.
So after this, we're going to Google that.
But it's funny. It's funny.
Well, that's awesome. So are you friends with any of the other Power Rangers that are here this weekend?
Yes. A lot of them are my colleagues from the show. I worked on the show as a stuntman also, so even across different seasons. And then a lot of them I've gotten to know coming to these conventions.
And what was it like playing the Quantum Ranger? Tell us about your experience.
What do you want to know? Does anybody have any specific questions about what it's like playing the Quantum Ranger? Go ahead.
How long were you playing Eric until you knew that you're going to be the Quantum Ranger? Was it right away?
Until I knew that what?
You're going to be the Quantum Ranger. Was it right away, in the script, or was it until later?
It's funny because I'm usually pretty aware of the show's format and how it was done because I worked on the show and with the show in more capacities than just the production of the television show. I worked on the live shows and I worked as a stuntman. So usually I know what's going on, but when I was auditioning for the role, I thought it was just going to be a guest star role and I'd work a week and that would be it. I didn't realize that I was auditioning to become the 6th Ranger. And I didn't realize that it was actually going to be the 6th Ranger until we were actually filming the first episode, or the first part of the series of episodes that are the introduction of Eric. So we don't film in order. So the very first scene was the fight scene that takes place as Eric is trying to get the quantum morpher. And then he puts his hand inside the mysterious box and the quantum morpher appears. That whole fight scene that goes on right before that was pretty much my first day on set. So it didn't, the pieces were not coherent enough for me to figure out what was going on until about the end of the first week. And I think it was the 2nd or 3rd day of filming is when, if you remember the episodes, I have the showdown with Wes, and we're talking about how I'm going to take over the Silver Guardian team and whatever. I'm messing with his head. That was when I realized, I think I'm going to be on this show for a while. This is pretty cool. So.
And now you're part of something so absolutely iconic. And I know you from Power Rangers, but when I was researching for this panel, I found out some really cool stuff about you. So you do all your own stunt work?
I do a lot of my own stunt. Well, I guess I still do all my own stunt work, yes. I'm trying to move away from that. As you know, I started out as a stuntman, and I worked for one of Jackie Chan's choreographers for almost a decade. A lot of the television shows you see on air right now, and films that you see, those are my peers, those are the guys I came up with. We all choreographed together, and I'm talking about Avengers and the like, the Marvel movies, the Marvel shows. Those are all guys that I knew, or they knew of me, or I had been choreographing while they were kids, watching the stuff that we were doing, so we all know each other. And that's the world that's the career field that I was in before I started acting on Power Rangers, and afterwards. So because of that, I get hired for my particular ability to do my own stunts Usually it's because it saves the production money. They don't have to hire a second stunt guy or a stunt double to double me. They get to pay me one contract, which they're not supposed to. They're supposed to pay me 2 contracts, but you know how it is. Sometimes you need the job and you make a little negotiation here so you can be the guy in the spot. And that's the way it goes when you're trying to build your career. You make concessions here and there. So for me, that's always been an advantage. I have the ability to say or get hired because I can do the action myself. And it also, you know, prevents them from, it alleviates the worry a bit because you don't have an actor that may or may not harm themselves. You have an actor that knows what he's doing, and he's going to harm himself for sure, but he's not going to say anything because that's the stunt guy way. Anyway, a nice long answer.
Well, what would you say is the most dangerous stunt that you've done?
The dangerous ones are always the little ones, the little small ones. Just taking a little role can be more dangerous than the big, thought-out gags that you see where the guy's flying back on the wire or whatever, because those have to be well planned because they don't want to kill you or decapitate you. But the one I was worried about the most was in The Scorpion King with The Rock. I don't know if you guys have seen that show. I don't blame you if you haven't. It's not a very good show. But if you do go back and look at the show after I've just told you the story, in the very beginning of the film, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, climbs down a chimney in a barbaric, the chimney of a barbarian kind of hut, large yurt, I guess it is. And he's so incredibly strong that he shoots his arrows, and when it hits the barbarians, they go flying through the walls and 60 feet up into the air and back. And I'm one of those guys. And so when we had to practice for that, I was the stunt coordinator on that as well. So when we were practicing that, those big huts that you see in film and television, they're made of all kinds of different materials. This particular one, because it was Universal Studios and it was they had lots of money, was made of steel and then coated over in a rubber kind of material that looks like the logs that you see or a composite, whatever. But while we're rehearsing, they're in the middle of building these sets and I'm rehearsing, and we're all trying to do, all the department heads are in there trying to do everything at once to prepare, and I'm being shot back on this this wire that's pulling me at 250 feet per second, because that's supposed to be the effect of the rock hitting me with an arrow, and my head is coming 6 inches from smashing on the back of this metal steel bar. So if I jump too high, I could potentially become a vegetable, and if I don't jump high enough, I'm not clearing this platform that has these planks coming straight out at me. So there's a lot of grooves that you could catch your ankle in, and you're attached to a machine that's pulling you at 250 feet per second. It's pretty fast. So that was pretty nerve-wracking. And that's the example of when a stunt guy has to be in control of his part of the job. You have to count on them not to pull you too hard or too fast, or to pull you fast or hard enough, which doesn't happen sometimes. And then you have to play your role, which is to perform well enough. So that can get scary. That can get kind of scary.
And was it your stunt work that got you involved with the Power Rangers, or was there a big elaborate audition process? What was that like?
Well, because I had worked for Jackie Chan's team, the Japanese stunt guys that did Power Rangers were suddenly impressed. And they hired me to work for them on some of their stunt shows, and then when they found out that I also acted, they gave me a shot at auditioning for the Quantum Ranger. And I did all right. They liked me though. The executive producer, who was also the head of the stunt team for that show, pushed me through the casting. I think casting was going, man, we'd like this guy instead. And the executive producer would go, no, I want this guy. I really want you to consider this guy. And so they gave me a lot of opportunities to show that I could play the role. And they were my champion. So that helped. Sometimes that's what it takes, being really lucky and getting pushed through to get a break. And if you look at my career, it wasn't a really huge break, but it has opened a lot of doors since. So it's kind of how it works and what it's like to be an actor.
And I also read that you're trained in a bunch of things. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce these things that you're trained in, but I hear you have black belts galore. What are you, Taekwondo? I don't know. I have them all written down. I can't really
galore.
I'm not going to. Yeah.
I have a whole chest full of black belts, leather ones, polyurethane ones.
Okay, sounds good.
You know, ones that are designed for rigging and stunt. Yeah. I've been studying martial arts for 30 plus years. So I have a very good grand overview of the practice of martial arts.
And did that kind of lead into stunt work, or did you do that simultaneously?
That led into stunt work.
Sorry, I talk with my hands.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Sometimes I pick up stuff that I think is interesting, and I think that's fun to do.
Sorry.
So we should both start talking about this.
I think I
So
do
anyway,
too.
what happened was I was doing martial arts. When you get into stunts, you come from a particular background. Either you're a professional. Look, I can't stop.
I'm sorry.
And,
you started a trend, I shocked you.
No, it's okay. I love it. I love doing it. It actually, there's something cathartic about this. Talking about this. Anyway, so when you have a martial arts background, you know, you're going to be more useful as a stuntman, especially when you work for a guy like Jackie Chan, who does a lot of martial arts. And they don't just do one particular style. They like to change it up and to create all kinds of different moods and effects by how you have two characters interact with each other. Okay? So, yes, that's definitely how you get into stunts. I came out to Los Angeles from Northern California to do action films. And so, of course, I thought that getting into stunts or allowing myself to experience that for a bit would be a good way to have something in my profile as an actor that would be desirable to people producing action films.
Awesome. Was that always the end goal, was to be involved in acting? Because I read, like, you've also done like,
Yes.
stop motion for video games as well?
Motion capture.
Motion capture.
So stop motion is when they take clay characters
And
and they
you-
take pictures of each phase of the character moving and they put them all together, and that's why you get this movement. It's stop motion. That's what she's talking about.
Gotcha. That's wrong.
That's what she said first.
That's not what
That's
I'm
absolutely
That's
wrong.
very false. That's like Nightmare Before Christmas.
I thought you said you did research on me.
Oh, you have no idea. Like, I did. I really
Motion
did.
capture is what you see nowadays, which is just a technologically evolved form of stop motion, where we have 150 to 200 cameras all over a volume, looking into the one spot, which becomes the stage that you perform on. And actually, we do call that the volume, because all of those infrared cameras, they're infrared cameras because they shine an infrared light, and we wear the reflective balls, and those infrared, that is picked up by the camera, and the computer is able to mark where those balls are in time and space. And when you have a collection of them on your body, then it can actually recognize that as your signature movement, because not everybody moves the same. So we do a thing called range of motion, or ROM, where we do a set of movements that are unique to ourselves and our bodies. Okay, that's how it works. And then they use that to do all kinds of things like you see in Lord of the Rings, monsters, giants, whatever. Or video games. So I do that also.
Have you been like a monster or a giant in a video game?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Which video games can we see you
I
in?
can't remember.
You were in Devil May Cry?
I was in Devil May Cry. I was Virgil, but he wasn't really a monster. I can't remember. Oh, Resident Evil 6. Various zombie-ish slime ooze creatures things. Yeah.
Do they do anything that make you feel like absolutely insane and crazy? Like, do you have to like crawl around on the floor or anything?
Yes, exactly.
Perfect.
Absolutely. For sure. Resident Evil, that.
That looks
I think
like.
I was a creature for the first time being birthed out of a cadaver. I don't know. Sometimes it's just very strange, disgusting stuff, and sometimes it's not.
Do any of you guys have any questions? Because I could sit here and talk to you for the next 45 minutes. I don't care.
Yes. What's your name?
Alexis.
Alexis. Alexis?
Yes.
I think I met you at another convention, right?
Nope.
No? This is the first time?
Yeah, my first
Wow.
time.
I'm a doppelganger then.
Nice to meet you, Alexis.
My question is I know for some stunt people, like the smaller productions, there's not as many cameras, so only like one camera picks up like one angle, so then they have to redo the scene again, so they can like get a different angle of the shot. So does that ever happen to you? Like, is it more difficult or is it easier so you can try to get it do better?
That happens a lot, and so on bigger productions, they'll use 3 cameras, They'll use up to 10 cameras, and they'll place them on all kinds of angles. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't work just as hard. Sometimes those cameras are in their way, and it takes a lot longer to do those setups. But when you come in and you shoot an action sequence, the very basic way to shoot it is two guys fighting, and you shoot the wide, so you can get a sense of geography. Then you shoot everything again from this angle over this guy's shoulder, and that's usually when you replace the actor with a stunt guy who's wearing a wig, a horrible wig usually, depending on the production of the show. When it's a bigger production, then the wig is better. So then you guys shoot everything from this side with the actor back in, and another stunt guy on this side with another bad wig. And sometimes you can shoot both stunt guys together with a top shot. You see what I'm getting at? So you do a fight scene multiple times for multiple takes. The old way of shooting the whole master first is just the worst way of shooting because you tire out the stunt guys. Now what we do is we come in and we already know how we're going to pre-edit it just about, and we'll just pick angles to shoot from and just do those fight sequences 50 or 60 times from that angle, which saves us from doing the whole fight 50 or 60 times from every single angle. Now we just do it from one angle and we choose. And that's how it's, so yes, it's exhausting. And you have to be in shape. You have to have a particular kind of stamina for that work, that kind of work. And if you don't sweat as much, it helps. But that doesn't happen.
So have you ever had to don a really awful wig? You're talking about bad wigs. Now I need to know if you've ever worn a bad wig.
Yes, I've worn absolutely horrible wigs. I did a movie called U.S. SEALs 2, which is, don't bother seeing it. But I doubled the lead villain as well as I played one of the main characters. It's one of those low-budget deals. And the wig was horrible, absolutely horrible. And then in The Scorpion King, when I played the Barbarian, that was a very uncomfortable wig. It was a good wig, but it was an uncomfortable wig. So sometimes there are just bad wigs, and then sometimes there are really great wigs that are just uncomfortable, and sometimes there's both. And so, yes. You guys get it. You get it. If you've ever worn a wig, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
So you're also involved in a Mortal Kombat web series? Is this a thing?
That was 10 years ago.
So? You were still in it?
That's old news.
Is it?
I'll just take a question from the lady over here.
I'm getting fired.
What's the worst injury you've ever gotten doing stunt work?
What's the worst injury?
Yeah.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
you've been really lucky.
Well, actually, I have. I have been really lucky. And stunt guys nowadays, we try to take care of each other when we're coordinating and when you're working for me or I'm working for somebody else. Because we know that we've got to continue to do this to make a living and make our health insurance and our pension and health contributions. So we try to take care of each other, but sometimes it's just a dangerous job. I know a lot of guys that have injured themselves really well. My injuries are accumulated over time. So I have a really, really bad shoulder right now that I don't know if it's from arthritis or a tear from some of the training I've been doing recently. Perhaps it's from doing some of the stunts that I was doing on another movie that have just accumulated over time. That's the worst of it for me. I have arthritis in my right knee, probably from jumping down from a lot of things and not having a lot of cushion over the years and slamming myself into things. But all in all, I have no broken bones, no severe lacerations, no problems except for stuff that I think I might suffer from regardless of whether I was a stuntman or not, just from having an active lifestyle. So I'm lucky. I'm lucky. You were going to say about the web series Mortal Kombat.
I was, but now I feel guilty for asking.
No. So there's a web series on Machinima. You can look it up on YouTube. It's called Mortal Kombat Legacy 2. That's the better one. The first one isn't so good. The second one, the one that she's referencing, was directed by Kevin Tancherone, and he's done episodes of The Shield. He's directing The Shield right now. I thought he did an excellent job with the show. I played the blind swordsman in that show, Kenshi. And thank you.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It was a lot of, I had the most fun actually doing that show in recent years, and as an action show. And it's a great web series to have done. It was produced by Warner Brothers, I think they were producing that as they were getting ready to make the movie, but the movie hasn't been approved yet. And who knows if I'll be in the movie or not. So that's well, you're absolutely right. And I got to tell you, as the Mortal Kombat franchise goes, I just don't see why they're so interested in continuing to produce that. But this last rendition of it in the web series, some of the better stuff I've seen in all of the history of the production of this intellectual property as a show. You were going to ask a question. Go ahead.
Yes, speaking of movies, the new Power Rangers movie that's supposed to come out next year.
Yeah.
Like, have they talked to you about anything?
No, nobody's talked to me about it. I'm a has-been. Nobody's going to come talk to me.
Or
They're looking for new, young, hip, good-looking kids. Nobody's going to come knocking on my door.
Do you know of any like others, or like if they're gonna do like cameos from anybody?
No,
or?
I don't think so.
No?
Lionsgate has rebooted the show, and from what I know about having worked with Saban Entertainment over a lot of years, and just working in the entertainment business, it doesn't make sense to come back and have any cameos at this point for that show. As they're doing, what Saban is doing now is polishing old brands. That's what they like to say, but I think that's just a cover for them to buy back Power Rangers property and turn it into what they're doing with it. So that's what's going on, and I don't think it's in their best interest to have any cameos from any of the actors from any of the television shows. They're going to hire real actors. These are real names who command a particular salary because of all the movies they've done to make a real Power Rangers movie, which is going to be the same.
Didn't they just
that's
hire?
my opinion.
They hired the one guy from Breaking Bad, right? Bryan Cranston.
There you go.
As Zorro.
Probably going to be the worst thing
Really?
he's ever done. It's probably going to be the worst thing he's ever done. But he'll do a good job in the worst thing he's ever done. Yes. Oh, wait, is this all being filmed and it's going to be put on?
Oh,
I
100%.
just got to make sure I'm
No,
prepared.
it's okay.
For the fact
It's
that
turned
Saban will-
off. Don't be nervous.
Yes.
I wanted to ask about your role as Virgil, Devil May Cry.
Sure.
Yourself, how was it like in general? How do you feel about how the character, how the franchise?
Well, as you can tell, I'm extremely opinionated, and unless you're ready for another, you know.
We have time. Go for it. Be opinionated.
No, I mean, that's a hard question to say. How does it feel to be. It feels great to be working. When you're an independent contractor in an industry that it's very difficult to get jobs, that's the answer to all of those questions. How did it feel to play this character and that character? It felt great to be working. I can't say there's a lot of emotional depth in some of these characters that requires a tremendous amount of research. For Virgil, it was all spoon-fed to me by Capcom. This is what the character is, this is what we want. And so then my job is just to figure out how to, when I perform that, make it as believable as possible by linking up my own sort of correlations in life or imagination, bringing my imagination to that. So that's the answer to that question. Versus Eric, the Quantum Ranger, I had a template to work off of, but there's a lot of my own personal life invested in that character because it was analogous to what I was going through as a beginning actor, struggling to prove myself and show people that I was good at what I could do. Versus the character I played, Kenshi, where I didn't want to, because I think the Mortal Kombat franchise just sucks. I don't think there's any story there. It was just a video game that they tried to make a story out of because there's a lot of fans. And I know I'm going to make a lot of fans angry by saying that, but that's when a show starts that way, then you have to play a character from a show like that. Then it's your job to find as much as you can to enrich that character. And that's why I said what I just said seconds before. So when I decided to play that character, I just didn't want to play a video game character. I went and I did research on ninja clans, how ninjutsu and the samurai separated as soldiers, how they got along, where all that history came from in Japan, how it came about, where and how they studied, and try to incorporate those aspects of the character. I try to bring those aspects of the character to the forefront. Really make it feel like you're watching a traditional ninja as best I can, because there's a lot about the character that's not really traditional. But I gave him a history. I gave him behaviors. I don't think you get to see it in the show, but he's doing finger knitting patterns, which are meditation techniques that ninjas use right before they're ready to go to battle. And when they filmed just above my hands. So you don't get to see that. But maybe in some of the wide shots, you'll see he's actually doing ninjutsu meditation techniques, just things like that. So that's, when I get a question like that, you have to put it in comparison to a lot of the different types of characters and roles that you play, and then you get a sense of, okay, that's what it's like to be that character in that show.
Well, the thing is this. In my group of cosplayers that I have,
Uh-huh.
we're a big fan of your burger.
Oh,
So
thank you.
I have a little gift for you.
You have a gift for me.
Yeah, something little, if you don't mind me.
What's your name?
Alejandro.
Alejandro. Dan, nice to meet you, Alejandro. Thank you very much. And this is signed on the back.
Yep. That's
We love you, Dan Southworth. Till our admiration. Uneven pictures? What?
Yeah, that's like our cosplay group thing.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes, not all of them would have come, so.
That's cool. That's very cool. Thank you guys very much for that.
That's awesome.
I like this a lot. I appreciate it.
Some talented people here.
Any other questions? Any other? Yes, sir.
You said you've done martial arts in the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Who
Probably
was
more than 30 now.
Well, who was
40,
the first,
almost 40 years.
So who was the first person to introduce you to martial arts, and who was your?
My grandmother took me into a martial arts school. Said, "Here," and then took off and went shopping for the rest of the day.
And did you have any inspiration?
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee.
I was 5 years old. They took me to see a Bruce Lee movie, and I kept saying to myself, "Oh, this Chinese guy is pretty good, but he's going to die soon. It's going to suck when he dies." Because, so I was growing up in the late 70s, and that's when there wasn't as much diversity in film and television, so I expected every minority. You didn't expect the minority actor to be the lead. And I was electrified, and it turned out that he was the lead character in the movie, and I was hooked. Who's to say that's a result of the lack of diversity then versus the diversity now? And that's what really affected me. It wasn't the martial arts at all, and I've been led the wrong direction for my whole life, because now I'm realizing it had nothing to do with martial arts. It was about equality. No. It was about social progression and evolution. No. I think it was the martial arts. I was a young Asian kid, and I was the only Asian kid in the block, and I was being picked on for being different. It didn't matter that the neighborhood I grew up in was a multi-ethnic neighborhood. That's just how human beings interact. And so I was empowered by the images that I saw in the moment that I experienced. And then I had a reputation for a long time as being, actually my nickname was Ninja. I don't know where that comes from. As a kid, and I got into martial arts and I got into wrestling. It was actually wrestling that I got into first, where I actually did it long enough to be good at it. And then I had a reputation through school as somebody who was versed in these mysterious ways. Back then, martial arts wasn't as prevalent, so if you were studying it at all, people were a little bit cautious, or people challenged you, which happened a lot.
Did you win?
I'm still here. And I won in very different ways. For example, I'll tell you my favorite story. I used to get on the bus home from school, and 3 boys would sit up front, and I would always sit in the front seat, and they would always pick on me in such way that they would say, "Hey, you, so we hear you do all this kind of stuff." I'm like, "Yeah." I was kind of shy. And they said, "We call you out. We'll meet you in the field." And I was just this kind of kid. I said, "Yeah, okay, sure. I'll meet you in the field, and your friends. Bring your friends. Bring them all. I'll take you all along. Let's go." And then I'm like, taken aback, of course, because kids don't usually do that. Usually they're afraid. So I called him out and all his friends around him. And we were supposed to meet in the field after the bus dropped us all off at home at 3:15. So around 3:15, I'm watching Tom and Jerry. I don't know if you guys know that. It's a cartoon. And I'm eating popcorn, and I realize, oh, it's 3:15. Those knuckleheads are in the field looking for me. Eat my popcorn, come back the next day. Hey, where were you? We all showed up. You weren't there. I go, were you at the oak tree? Yeah, we were at the oak tree. Are you at the oak tree on the east end or the south end? There's two of them. I was there. I didn't see you. Oh, okay. Well, we'll meet you at which one today? I'll go, meet me at the north end one. Let's go. And it just went on for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. I don't know what it was. There was this defiance. And part of that is just growing up with the ethnic mother that I had, who was extremely defiant in the face of any kind of bullying or, unfairness. So I got it from her. And I just had a sense of humor about it, and I don't know, maybe it was a little too bold for my britches, but those boys ended up becoming my friends. So there's an example of how I actually handled a situation and was confident enough because of some of because I knew martial arts. I just figured if I had to kick him in the head, I'll kick him in the head. But it wasn't the solution. And then those boys were my friends for a while, and some of them just ended up being jerks. And I did have to knock one down one day. And I'm lucky I was able to. Sometimes it just works out that way. So, it progressed on. But anyway, the fun part of the story is the knuckleheads in the field looking for the kid. And I'm back at home eating popcorn, watching Tom and Jerry.
Oh, that's awesome. Of course you know what Tom and Jerry is, right? I know that. Yeah. That's it. Did you still have a question?
If you had the chance to make Kombat, how would you go about it? Like, what kind of actor would you choose for? How would you change the story?
That's a long answer. I mean, the first thing you have to do is create a coherent script that makes sense. And that often means that on a property like that, you have to invent the mythos of the world. You have to do enough research to include the things about the characters and their own backstory that's created for the video game into the world that the fans are going to like. Because you have to take care of the fans first. That's going to be the large part of your audience, right? And then decide how far outside of that we need to expand to the rest of the world and make it something that they'd like to watch. And that takes time. That takes a lot of time in development, in story development. So I'm just going to give you the short answer. That's how to proceed. And then once you have a good story, it's all about doing what they did with Power Rangers right now. Getting those actors that have those names that they think are going to make the show good. But the show, of course, won't be good unless they've done what I've said previously, which is invest in the story, incorporating some of the mythos of what the fans enjoy, and making up enough of it to reach the rest of the world. That's how you go about doing that. Yes?
So you said basically when you were younger, you did what you had to do, but you had the good intention behind it.
I say that again, what?
You said when you were younger, basically someone pick a fight with you, you had that good intention behind it, but you also had that like playfulness that you weren't going to do anything. You were just like with the kids you said became your friends. Is that how you became with the Quantum Ranger? He's kind of like that. Like he seems like this bad person, but he's all those good intentions.
No, the Quantum Ranger would have just smacked them all in the face. And maybe kicked them right off the bus.
To like his core, he has that good intentions behind all he does. Is that what led you to
well,
the world of that?
That's the way I played the character, yes. I mean, ultimately the character has to be, he becomes part of the team and he's a hero. So he has to come from a place where his intention is for the best. And even when you're training as an actor, they teach you that most villains are, and especially when they're likable, come from a place where they believe that what they're doing is for the best. And so that was the way to play that character, where he straddled the line between being a villain because he was really, really opinionated and hardcore with his resolve, so that he could make the transformation.
Was that like a reason why led you to wanting to go to that role of him?
Say again?
Like because like when you read the characters, like was this character like a reason why you wanted to? Because you like you kind of had that when you were younger.
The reason that I wanted to play him?
Yeah. Or it just like you just got.
The reason I
cast?
wanted to play him was because they wanted to hire me to play
That's
him.
it, really.
That's the straight up answer. That's
Because some actors don't
then
really
I'm
like
lucky. Then I'm lucky enough to look at it and go, okay, now I can do the creative work as an actor. Thank you again, guys.
Thank you.
So I mean, then I can dig in and go, okay, now I get to. Some guys don't do that. Some guys are like, okay, I'm lucky to have a job. I'm just going to play this job, and I'm working. I'm going to party tonight. Some people are like that. Some people dig in and try to actually make something more of it. And I'm hoping that that's going to mean that the work I do in the future, or it's going to lead to really good work done in the future because I took it seriously when I did it.
Well, how did you even get to like that role? Like how did you even get? Was it just like your agent was like, oh, have this to?
Had nothing to do with that. I just met the right people who believed in me. I did the live show, the Power Rangers live shows that were being at that time produced and directed by the stunt guys from the show. All of those stunt guys from the Power Rangers show come from live show experience back in Japan. And they just liked my Power Ranger acting. There's Power Ranger acting. There's actually a kind of acting that you learn to do when you put on the helmet that is all about how well you communicate with your body and your physicality. And they liked that I was able to do that. And I was able to do that because I was working with a stuntman who, when we were getting in and doing martial arts action and filming stuff, we were taking our cues from comic books. Look at the framing on these comic books. Look at how they frame these poses. Let's study this. And that became immediately applicable to the appearances that I was doing around the world. How I was standing, how I was communicating with kids that were afraid to come up and take their picture with you because it's intimidating to a 5-year-old, believe it or not. And so learning how to change the look of my emotion, then by the time working on those live shows, being considered having good Ranger acting, and getting in on a cheesy show like Power Rangers. To cut my teeth as a leading actor, you're not going to get that experience ever, unless you're starting out at a very base level, probably going to be a cheesy show. Sometimes you get lucky and those cheesy shows become iconic, like Power Rangers became iconic worldwide, or Walking Dead, Yes?
So do you think that's so based on your martial arts background? Because we've seen all of them, and some of the actors are very overly dramatic with that, while others like Jason David Frank, I know comes from a martial arts background, and his are more fluid. Do you think that is more based on the martial arts experience?
Yes and no. I mean, sometimes the overacting is because you got a bad director. I was working with some bad directors, and I learned a few things about acting by going against the grain. And I learned a few things about acting by just completely going with them and letting them direct me the way they were going to direct me. One of the most important things you learn about acting is how to figure out if you're working with a good director. And you got to remember, we were actors who were hired with almost zero experience. Zero experience, actually. Some of us almost zero. And so a lot of that's going to be based on your personality. And when you're creating a show like that where you're hiring kids that don't have as much experience, you're hiring them based on their personality, because that's all they've got to go on. And by the time I was on the show, I was a trained actor, and a lot of my other cast members were trained actors. So that's why that season actually comes off with a different appeal and feel about it when you look at it. But that's the answer. And it has less to do with martial arts. Some of it could be. I mean, that definitely affects your personality, right? And that's what I'm saying, is that a lot of this was based on the personality of the people they were hiring, because they didn't have experience as professional performers.
With Power Rangers, did you have to audition, or were you called up?
I still had to audition.
You had to audition.
I didn't realize, but I was a favorite, and I was going to make it all the way through, provided I could audition well. But part of the reason you still have to audition is because you still have to go through the process so that it's fair. I had the executive producer had his eye on me as the character for lots of reasons, but you still have to prove yourself. You still have to earn your right to be there. And so if I'd gone through the audition process and just sucked, then he wouldn't have been able to push me through. He had to show to everybody else that I deserved to be there. And that comes from being prepared and taking your work seriously, which I was, at the time.
In your opinion, who do you feel was the leader of the Time Force?
Time Force team? There's only one leader in that whole show.
You? Because at the beginning, it looked like it was Jen.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of confusing because they usually have the Red Ranger, but I always felt...
So for some, I don't know if anybody here is unfamiliar with Time Force, but the interesting thing about the Time Force incarnation of Power Rangers was that it starts off with the Pink Ranger as the leader, which was a change, and the Red Ranger has to work his way into acceptance and earn his way to earn his leadership, earn the right to lead. And then they had me, who was a Sixth Ranger, who in the formula traditionally battles with the Red Ranger, but I was also a Red Ranger. So it was meant to be a very confusing, the leadership, the lines drawn between who's the leader or not were meant to be very vague, so that you could enhance this personal dynamic that was going on and the personal journeys that was going on with the characters themselves. I know, really deep for a show like Power Rangers. Yes.
Have you heard of Superpower?
Superpower, I have, yes.
Yeah. If you could go on to it as yourself from Power Rangers, Time Force, who would you want to fight against? In your opinion, Superpower.
Who would I want to fight against? Yeah, I like that. Kenshi. If I was going to be on as the Quantum Ranger, who would I want to fight? Any superhero in the world?
Yeah, anybody.
Why? Why would I want to do? I don't understand why I would even.
Maybe another Power Ranger.
Maybe I'd like to just go work on my car or something, or read a book, have some coffee. That's. I mean, look, that's who I am. I don't fantasize about fighting other superheroes. Or, I guess if I did, I'd be an MMA fighter. I don't know. But the thing that I look forward to is sitting down with a good book and having some coffee in the morning. That's my predisposition, my predilection. So I don't have a good answer for you on that, I'm sorry. I guess if I was Eric, I still think that the character Eric doesn't have time for that kind of thing. Now Kenshi's a wandering kind of fella, kind of like Kane from Kung Fu. I think he'd probably walk away from a situation like that as well. So who's that lead? What else? Oh, Virgil. Virgil's too focused on unlocking the portal to the demon world and taking over the universe. He doesn't have time for superheroes. When he unlocks the portal to the demon world, what comes forth will handle that for him. So, of all the characters that I've ever played, I don't think I have a satisfying answer for you on that little dealio.
So we have a couple minutes left.
Okay.
So anything you want to plug, or can we follow you on social media? What's going on in your? I want to call you Ninja now since you're Ninja. Sorry.
That's totally fine. It's
Okay,
totally
Ninja.
okay for you to call me Ninja. So on, no, I'm just playing with you. Social media, Instagram. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. You guys know, if you follow already, that on Sundays at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'll get on and answer your questions for a few hours. I'm not on Facebook, but there's a Facebook fan page that I am an admin on, so I can come on and answer your questions or take part in some of the promotional stuff that they do on that page. It's worth following. I look at all your comments when I can. I read everything everybody has to say. I think that's important feedback about what it is I'm doing that you guys appreciate or not. And I'm smart enough to avoid the ultra mean comments and not let those bother me. So I do go on there and I look. And please participate in that stuff. The more viewership and following, nowadays the landscape of how actors are chosen is starting to change because of social media. So the more followers we have, the more value we can walk into the door with when we're being considered for a role. It's very strange. So you're going to see a lot of people. This way, you'll see a lot of actors out there promoting themselves and posting, and it tends to be something that's going on right now in casting or just out there in the entertainment business world universe.
Awesome. I think we did it. Are you
So
good?
follow
Do you
me.
feel
Follow
good?
me.
Yay. Everyone, when you leave, go follow him. That's
So
your assignment.
So I could say I have 109 followers.
After this, we'll have like.
I'm sorry, 109,000? No, 109.
Well, thanks again so much to Dan Southworth. Big round of applause, guys! Woo-hoo!